Hello, I'm Olivia Mulvany. I'm a Senior Associate here at BDB Pitmans in our Corporate and Commercial team. This is Katie Crellin. She's the Regulatory Lead at County Broadband Limited. Katie, could you please tell us a bit about your role within County Broadband's operations?
As a regulatory lead, that's kind of the conduit for the business to be able to make sure that we're compliant with everything that we need to be from a telecoms perspective. That means engaging with industry regulators like Ofcom, industry bodies where we are groups of other service providers all coming together to have a voice together at big events, conferences, things like that. And then also sometimes the government over at DCIT and formerly the DCMS.
Could you explain what full fibre broadband is and how you consider it will benefit the UK?
Full fibre broadband is basically a technology, is a version of broadband that we deploy and that a lot of other providers are now deploying, mainly altnets, alternative networks are deploying. And it's very different from the current copper network that most of you will have at home, unless you've had one of these rollouts come near you. So essentially, full fibre is strands of glass in tubes in the ground and is basically limitless for what you want to put through it. Whereas with your copper network, you will maybe get 100 meg service, but depending on where you are, close in proximity to the cabinet, will depend on what speed you get on your fibre to the cabinet copper connection, whereas with your fibre to the premises full fibre connection, you will receive the speed that you should be getting. So for example, if you pay for a 900 meg package, you will get 900 meg because it's just dependent on the technology that you put on either end of that glass.
So at the moment when you see fibre broadband advertised, does that usually mean that it would be fibre to the cabinet and then copper to the premises?
So this is a big kind of bone of contention in the telecoms industry because for a long time, fibre to the cabinet services were being promoted as being fibre, which led to the consumer industry, the consumers themselves, believing that they had fibre when in reality they haven't got fibre. They've got fibre up to the green box at the end of the road and then they've got copper all the way to their house, which then means that they then suffer with things like lag. You don't get the speed that you need at busy times. Everybody comes home from work and you think, why can't I watch streaming while somebody else is gaming and somebody else is having a video conference at the same time? Whereas with fibre, that doesn't happen. And actually now there's a big push with those kind of industry bodies that I mentioned earlier, where we're trying to get a point across that has sort of damaged what we're trying to do in rolling out fibre to the premises.
Thank you. And can you describe County Broadband's role in helping the government achieve its goal of 85% full fibre coverage by 2023?
Yes, so we as a business roll out in the east of England at the moment. So they're often areas that kind of the bigger providers have sort of forgotten about or kind of discarded as being easily connectable. And we go after the rural communities that are the most difficult to connect. We were one of the first businesses to bring in a bespoke connections team that deal directly with the very difficult premises to connect. And they can be premises that sit within one of our projects that then need further assistance and further design to get them connected. So yeah, we use private investment to fund our builds, and then we build to an area and sell in that area and then connect those people once it's built. So basically doing all of that is what is then helping towards the government's eventual plan of having everybody connected. There's £20 billion of investment going in from altnet providers into this space in the industry. So there's a lot of investment coming in from altnets, and that's how we are supporting the government in rolling out their connectivity target.
So if we shift from a UK-wide focus to a more regional focus, have you faced any challenges in the process of building full fibre out to those communities?
Yes, so obviously we're committed to kind of getting rid of copper. We want to be rolling out this fibre, and that means disruption, unfortunately. So, you know, you might need to put a pole on somebody's land, or you might need to put a chamber in somebody's land, which means you need a way leave. And a way leave is a legal agreement that we need to be able to access their land, put that equipment in their land, settle any remuneration that needs to come from that, allowing us future access to that, allowing us to be able to go and upgrade that. There are things from the government like the PSTI Act and the PSTI Bill that will allow us to have easier access to those things and shared access to those things, but we still need to have way leaves in place that support us from a legal perspective. And then obviously that's where we need people like BDB to sort of help us write those way leaves. Yeah. We also get occasional problems with things like road closures. They can take a while to get put in, but we work as quickly as we can to plan them throughout a build. But you could get a situation where you need to go in somewhere really quickly as an emergency or something like that, and actually they can sometimes cause a delay, but they are working on that as an industry by kind of trying to build more flexible permitting into things so that actually you can have a wider area that you're working on at one time and be able to go to different places at different times to sort of speed up that deployment, so then that kind of full circle comes again to support the government. So that's something that some of the councils are trying at the moment in trials for flexi permits, which is a good thing that should help that.
Looking forward, what do you see as the most significant opportunities on the horizon for the broadband industry?
On the whole, for the broadband industry, I think the fact that, as a people, as a population, we're becoming much more of a sort of a digital being, if you like. So everything that people are looking at revolves around technology, and eventually it'll all be revolving around technology. People's healthcare is becoming video calls now. People's fridges can connect to the internet and tell them when they're running out of milk and reorder some more. People's security at home, people working from home, children learning from home. All of those things are things 10 years ago we wouldn't have thought would be happening right now. And actually, it's just going to kind of be a ball that just rolls and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's the biggest opportunity for the broadband industry, is to roll out that fibre to make sure that people can do all of those things in their house at one time. That's going to be the key, is that people are able to do it all at once and not have to choose one thing over the other. The technology that's going on either end that allows the speed to come through your connection is just improving all the time, and that is what determines what connection speed you can get. For example, at the moment we can give people 100 times the speed that they're currently getting on their providers. Somebody could be getting 10 meg and we can offer them 1,000. So it will only spiral and get bigger and bigger. And some of the bigger carriers, the corporate carriers, are doing sort of 10 gig, which is 10,000 meg. So it's just spiralling already, but it will just get bigger and bigger.
How do you balance the need for innovation and expansion with the regulatory constraints, especially in such a regulated market?
Obviously, as a business, we pride ourselves on kind of customer focus, customer comes first. And all of the stuff that we do as a business is to try and make sure that actually our customer does come first. It's not just something that we say. So actually, a lot of the regulation that is there from people like Ofcom is actually consumer focused. There are, especially during the cost of living crisis that's happening now, is that, things like having to have contract information documents, contract summary documents, they all now outline things in very simple, easy to understand steps for our customers. And they are things that we are bound to do, regulatorily bound to do, but actually that make life easier for our customers, especially now, because they know what they're going to pay, they know there's no mid-contract price rise, and then they know what they're going to pay at the end of their contract. So things like that help. There are also situations where we have to have specific things in place for people that are vulnerable. being able to provide battery backup solutions for people that need to be able to use their phone, because the landlines are going, or what people traditionally know as a landline, are going to be switched off eventually in the PSTN switch off. So they need things like VoIP phone, which is voice over internet. So basically your phone plugs into your router instead of your telephone socket on the wall, and you need to be able to power that in a power outage. And that again is something that has been mandated by the regulator that then supports the customer. So actually the balance isn't that difficult to achieve, because actually we need to be focused on doing that for people anyway. But it is a very regulated market, and Ofcom do sit over a lot within the telecoms industry.